Hello and welcome to 50 State Sports Update Arizona Edition. I'm your host, as always, Carl Mogline, and we are going to talk about all the major teams in the state of Arizona, the 5 pro teams in, of course, the 4 major sports, and the WNBA, and 2 major colleges that are in this state. And we are going to start off with the Arizona Cardinals of the NFL. They are currently playing in the NFC West, but they were established all the way back in 1898, and they were a charter member of the NFL in 1920, back when they were founded in Chicago. They started out as the Morgan Athletic Club. In 1898 to 1919, that was what they were called. When the NFL started up in 1920, they became the Chicago Cardinals. Until 1943, that continued, and then for 1 year in 1944, they were the Card Pit, or as it was known by the media because they were so bad, the Carpets, when they joined forces with the Pittsburgh Steelers because of World War II and the loss of so many players. They continued to be the Chicago Cardinals from 45 to 59 until in 1960 they moved to St. Louis. After 27 years in St. Louis, they moved to Arizona to become the Phoenix Cardinals, and after having that name for 5 years, they settled on the name they have today, the Arizona Cardinals, and they have kept that name since 1994. They have never won a championship while they were in Arizona, and the franchise has never won a Super Bowl. They have, though, won multiple NFL championships. This franchise, the Arizona Cardinals, has won 2 division titles in 08 and 09, and in 2008, they made the Super Bowl, and they ended up losing to the Steelers 27-23 in that game. And so last year, in this 2012 season, they started 4-0, and then they lost 11 of 12 games. It completely fell apart, and they ended up going only 5-11. An absolutely terrible season for that team. They ended up falling apart from where they were. They ended up, at the time, they were number 1 in a few power rankings. They were up there really high, and then they just fell apart. The key reason for that was the lack of offense on this team. And now they've done some things that they hope their offense will be much better. And that goes into the key additions for this season, hoping this team can do much better than last year. 7th overall pick in the draft, guard Jonathan Cooper. Then they have, this is not exactly the most important player, but a player I look forward to seeing, is the 69th overall pick, defensive back Tyrann Mathieu, the Honey Badger, out of LSU. Of course, he did not play last year, but he was a Heisman Trophy candidate 2 years before that, and he ended up getting kicked off for drug reasons, but he has gone through rehab and been working out with fellow Cardinal cornerback Patrick Peterson. So I'm wondering how much of the decision Patrick Peterson being there and being a mentor to Tyrann, we'll see how much that plays into it. Alright, and then they did sign QB Carson Palmer. It is yet to know if Palmer or their current QB will be the starter. We are not sure on that. And then running back Rashad Mendenhall. He is a former Steeler. Last year he had some issues with some injuries and being benched for playing time. It was a very bad year from last year, and even the year before that he was not as productive, but previously he has been known to be a very, very good running back, and he has been named the starter by the new coach, Bruce Arians. He was, of course, the interim coach for the Indianapolis Colts last year, and he led that team to a playoff berth as Chuck Pagano was off getting better from cancer. Then we go on to the Phoenix Mercury of the WNBA, this league is actually owned by the NBA. It's run by them, trying to get them, and this is a interesting franchise going much up and down. They were a member of the inaugural WNBA in 1997. In 1998, they won their first conference title, but lost in the finals. And then after that, they won the conference title once again in 07 and 09. But those 2 years, they did take the WNBA title. They have had 2 first overall picks in Diana Taurasi in 2004, and last year, Brittany Griner in 2013. They have 2 of the best players in the WNBA. Of course, Brittany Griner broke the WNBA dunk record in her second game. She tied in her first with 2 dunks. That's a career record. not a game record. Absolutely outstanding player Brittany Griner is. All right, they are currently third in the Western Conference. They are 5.5 games behind Minnesota, but they are currently in a position to make the playoffs. All right, moving on to our first college team, the University of Arizona Wildcats. This team is located in Tucson, and they play in the South Division of the Pac-12. They were the first sport to bring the first sport in this team to bring national recognition was polo. Yes, the sport where you ride on a horse and hit a ball. The 1924 UA polo team captured the Western Collegiate Championship. They then faced off Princeton for the intercollegiate title and did end up losing that 6-2 and 8-0. With the onset of World War II, the University of Arizona was unable to continue sponsoring a polo team, and they haven't had one since. They currently field 18 varsity teams that compete in the NCAA, along as many other teams, including a strong ice hockey and rugby programs. Their football team has 6 conference championships. The last was in 1993, and that was the only one that was in the Pac-12. They previously won conference titles in the WAC and the Border Conference. I will get to more on that when we get to Arizona State. They have 18 national championships, and 4 of those are in baseball, most recently 2012. A very strong baseball team all around Arizona. Good state for baseball. And then men's basketball has 1 championship, but they do have 4 Final Fours and 4 Pac-10 tournament championships to go along with 25 normal regular season conference championships. And so 97, of course, was their best year in program history, but recently they have come back with some great teams, and it looks like they have they, of course, always have a strong program, but it's in place where they just got one of the top prospects in the nation in Aaron Gordon, and he could be a huge asset to this team. I look to this team to be one of the top teams in the Pac-12, once again making the NCAA tournament. Men's golf has a championship. Women's golf has 2 championships. And softball at the school has been an outstanding sport. They have made the NCAA tournament since 1987. They haven't missed it. They won last championships. They won back-to-back in 06 and 07. They have been an outstanding team for the University of Arizona. Then they also have 1 championship each in men's swimming and diving and women's swimming and diving, both in 08. But back to the softball team for a minute. That is an absolute dynasty with them. They have the best coach in the country, coached the U.S. Olympic team. But that softball team is absolutely incredible. And since 1987 making the tournament, that is absolutely outstanding. Being one of the top programs in the nation for that long is absolutely incredible. Right now, moving on to the Phoenix Coyotes of the NHL. This franchise started in 1972 as the Winnipeg Jets in the World Hockey Association. They moved to Phoenix in 1996, and they have made the playoffs 8 of their 17 years, so about half. But the thing with those is they won their first 4 years in Phoenix. They made the playoffs, and then they made 3 of the last 4. So it's been very beginning and end. As a child, I remember not thinking Phoenix was ever very good because they never made the playoffs for me. They've won the division only once, and that was in 2011, 2012, where they lost to the LA Kings in the conference finals that year. And in last year, they had a complete drop, a sheer drop, all the way to 4th in their division, 10th in conference, from 2nd in conference the year before. A terrible, terrible year for them the year following. So the Phoenix Coyotes will look to bounce back from that downfall. All right, now we move on to the Arizona State Sun Devils. This is this college is based in Tempe, Arizona, and they play in the Pac-12 South Division as well. They are major rivals with the University of Arizona. It is one of the longest rivalries in college sports. It is a long, brutal rivalry, and it's the longest rivalry with a trophy in it. Arizona State has 23 team national championships, and that's 5 in baseball, 3 in tennis, 1 in men's gymnastics, 1 in men's track and field, 1 in men's indoor track and field. 2 times they've won the women's outdoor track and field, once in women's indoor track and field, you get the pattern here. Wrestling, they have one national championship. Men's golf, they've won 2 national championships. Women's golf, they've won 13 national championships, accounting for over half their team national championships. Softball, twice, and women's swimming and diving 7 times. As you can tell, that women's golf program is the best in the nation. Football, they have 17 conference championships, 7 of those when they were in the Border Conference. The Border Conference was an old conference. It involved schools like Texas Tech and these 2 Arizona colleges, and it was a strong conference. Then Arizona State and Arizona both joined the WAC, the Western Athletic Conference, which is now folded, but once was a very strong program until it fell with Pac-10 teams. They kind of ended up falling into being a mid-major conference. And this Arizona team also has 3 Pac-10 titles. Most recently, they had a title in 2007, and that was co-champions in that year. Moving on to basketball, they have 3 Elite Eights. They've reached 8 conference championships, and 4 of those were in the Border Conference, and 4 were in the WAC. They have yet to win a basketball conference champions in the Pac-12, and I really don't see them winning one soon. They are not a strong program. On the other hand, they have one of the strongest baseball programs in the nation, 21 conference championships, 22 College World Series appearances, and 5 national titles. You add that all up and have players that have come out of there like Dustin Pedroia, Ian Kinsler, Barry Bonds went play there. It's an outstandingly long list, and they lead all schools with 368 draft picks. Absolutely outstanding for that program. If you consider how long the draft has been going on, they have players picked every year. It's been a great program there, and it's definitely their best program of any program except for maybe women's golf. All right, now we are going to move on to the Phoenix Suns of the NBA. This team, they play in the Western Conference, and they were an expansion team in 1968, and they have 29 playoff appearances and only 45 season. An extremely strong team, 55% overall win percentage, and that is the top of any team who has yet to win a championship, although they have made 2 finals appearances and 9 trips to the Western Conference Finals. In last year, they were the worst team in the West, 25-57. They were 35 games behind the Oklahoma City Thunder, and they were 20 games out of a playoff spot. And they were a whole 31 games out of their division lead. Not a good team whatsoever. The worst team in the West. And now looking forward to 2013-2014, they have a new coach, Jeff Hornacek, and they have restocked through draft and as well. And I have some new news to bring forward to you in just a minute. But first, talking about Alex Len, the fifth overall. He's a center, and he's from Maryland. He was the best center in the nation. He has great physical presence, and at a position that's kind of dying at center, he's a great player. And the Suns, just coming out today, Suns traded power forward Louis Scola to the Indiana Pacers in exchange for Gerald Green, Miles Plumlee, and a lottery-protected 2014 first-round draft pick. What the protection on that does is basically, if it is a lottery pick, it will be protected, and it will just move on to the next year, and it goes down to how far it's protected. First, it's protected to a certain number of slots, and as it goes down, it gets further protected. So by the time, a few years from now, if they will get that pick at some point. But with a team like the Indiana Pacers, I see them getting that pick next year in 2014, no problem. All right, and now we're going to move on to our last team from the state of Arizona, and this is the Arizona Diamondbacks. But first, just talking about baseball in Arizona. As I've talked about, the Arizona State and Arizona programs in baseball have outstanding programs, and spring training has actually been in Arizona since before the Diamondbacks even got there. This is a state that's built on baseball. Many former major leaguers come back and live in Arizona because of the weather and the near baseball. Means a lot of little leagues are actually strong, so a lot of little leagues have coaches who have played in the major leagues. It's interesting. But this team was founded in 1998. They won a World Series title in 2001, just their 4th year playing in the majors. Absolutely outstanding. And that is their only NL pennant, but they have won the division title 5 times. First time in their 2nd year in 1999. After being an expansion team, they came up really fast, winning division titles in 3 of their first 5 years of existence. Most recently, they won an NL West title in 2011. They have never won a wild card berth, so they really are. They're on top, or they're not. Currently, this year they are 54-51, and they're 2 games behind the LA Dodgers in the NL West, and they are 5 games out of the 2 wild card spots. But this team has been absolutely a young team, but a surprising team. This team was led by 24-year-old starting pitcher Patrick Corbin. He leads the team in all major pitching stats except for saves. And then you have 25-year-old Paul Goldschmidt. He's a first baseman for this team. He's batting .303, and he leads this team in every single batting category, including RBIs, home runs, average, on-base percentage. All those stats, he's leading this team, and he's a young player, 25 years old, has at least 10 more years left at him. I would be signing him to a long-term extension right now if I was the Arizona Diamondbacks. But, of course, I'm not, and that I am just a broadcaster on this show, but I do want to talk about on this show. Of course, listeners are what drives me and this whole Sports Nation network to do it, so please, if you like this show, share it with your friends, and like our Facebook page, 50 State Sports Update. Just look it up on Facebook, and show the episode to your friends, and then follow me on Twitter as well at Carl_PM. That's Carl with a K _PM on Facebook, and following National Sports on Twitter and Facebook as well. But the key thing, 50 State Sport Update on Facebook. I am Carl Moline. This is 50 State Sports Update, Arizona edition. See you next time with Arkansas.